Block Podcast, where we cut through the noise and keep it real. Just because a cut block is legal doesn't make it right. Kind of like Cory Hogue's takes. Now, here's your host, Cory Hogue.
Thank you, Jesse, and welcome to another episode of the Cut Block Podcast. This week, we're cutting through the noise and getting real about college football streaming. Bob Quillman, host of the QCast with Bob Quillman on YouTube, enters the Gridiron Briefing Room. We're discussing streaming from a Division III perspective. And of course, I close things out with the weekend warm-up. It is loaded this weekend. It's my personal viewing schedule of Saturday, because that's when all the games are this week. My name is Cory Hogue, proprietor of CoryHogueSports.substack.com, CoryHogue sports.substack.com, and find me on social media. I try to make it simple at Cory Hogue Sports, CoryHogue Sports. Also, don't forget to like, subscribe, and review this podcast wherever you listen. It truly makes a difference. And you can find every episode on our homepage, thecutblock.podbean.com. And I want to thank you all for your support. We are hitting the 1 month mark. And I started this Substack and podcast unsure what the response would be. It has been tremendous. And I can't thank each of you enough, that I'm looking forward to continuing this and talking about the season with you. But now we're going to get in the trenches with streaming. Let's talk about some streaming. Families across the country, they're shelling out money to watch their kids, their alma maters, the hometown programs. And too often, what do they get in return? A frozen screen, a link that doesn't work, or a shaky single camera feed where you're lucky if the ball stays in frame. I see a lot of it every week. But listen, this isn't about me complaining on my behalf. I've got media access. I'm lucky. This isn't a shot at FloSports or its business model either. Listen, streaming high school sports changed the entire business model for my former employer. This is about the people who matter the most. The parents, the grandparents, the alumni, and the fans who keep these programs alive. They're being asked to pay for something that often doesn't come close to matching the cost. Yes, streaming costs money. Cameras, staff, software, none of it's free. But here's where frustration starts to build. Context. At Division III, families are already paying massive tuition bills. $30,000, $40,000, $50,000, $60,000 or more a year. Then they get hit with another charge just to see their son or daughter play a sport. And half the time, the stream isn't working. Feels like double dipping on those families. Now, we move up to Division II or FCS. You can see why athletic departments lean on streaming revenue. Balancing budgets is hard. You have scholarships. It's a different world there. But whether it's D3, D2, or FCS, the core question in this does not change. What are fans actually getting for their money? Listen, FloSports, they've cut deals with a lot of non-FBS schools and conferences, and they're paying around $25,000 to $30,000 a year to each school for broadcast rights. That's not a small chunk of change. On the surface, it looks like easy money, but what's the cost? Fans expect a professional product when they pay. Multiple camera angles are nice. Replays, they're okay, they're cool. But a clean broadcast is a must. Instead, they're getting choppy coverage that sometimes cuts out before kickoff because these broadcasts are handled by the host school. And see, what happens is it doesn't just make FloSports look bad. It reflects on the schools and the conferences too. Donors turn away, alumni disengage, parents get frustrated, and suddenly the very people you're trying to connect with are tuning out instead. Some SIDs have said up to 90% drop in their football viewership. That's unsustainable. Here's the bottom line. Streaming is the front porch of college athletics in 2025. For a lot of fans, it's the only connection they have to their teams. If conferences or schools are going to sign with Flo or someone, they need to demand quality guarantees. They need to be upfront with the fans. If the broadcast is going to be bare bones, let us know. And the schools, you're not free of this at all. You need to reinvest that money, that rights fee money that you're making, and put it back to making the streams better. Get better cameras, more cameras, train your crews, add staff to help with this so you're not adding on to the current staff. And student workers. It's a great place for these students to learn a business that they might want to join later on in their future. Listen, if they don't do all this, everybody loses. Fans, players, programs, and the credibility of non-FBS football itself. The Cut Block Podcast is listener supported. And if you have the means, I'd be honored to have you as a paying subscriber over at CoryHogueSports.substack.com. Paid subscribers get every story delivered right to their inbox. Annual subscribers get 6 months free. And founding members, I call them all-stars, receive early access to the posts, plus my undying love and gratitude. It's time to head into the Gridiron Briefing Room, where my guest this week is the great Bob Quillman. He is host of the QCast with Bob Quillman on YouTube, which focuses on Division III athletics along with other interesting interviews. Bob, thank you so much for joining me here. I saw this weekend, we both, I think, got a lot of communication from people about the streaming services that's overtaken Division III football, and I figured what a better time to have you on and hear what you have to say.
I'm glad to be here, Cory. I appreciate everything you do. Obviously we have Texas in common here, and so hey, it's good to be with you, and let's talk through it.
Yeah, yes, sir. I appreciate it. First, I want to kind of go big picture here. Why is streaming such a critical part of Division III athletics?
It's huge for a lot of reasons. Obviously, in general, for the most part, it's the only way that folks can watch Division III games. It's not like, Duke and NC State where people can turn on ESPN and watch their team play. So streaming is the only game for the most part in Division III. And I think it's especially important, Cory, that in Division III, it's not like Division I, maybe even Division II, where people just automatically have a favorable impression of it. Division III is very misunderstood. We've got people out there that think Division III is like intramural athletics. And it's so important to have a way for people to watch Division III athletics, because that's how they come to learn how good it is. It's how they come to understand how great the student athletes are and the teams and the programs and the coaches. And so it plays a huge part of Division III for sure.
No doubt. And then now we have FloSports and Flow College. Look, I get it, right? Like, I understand. I cover all the levels, FCS down. And I can understand to a point FCS Division II, maybe, NAIA. I can understand charging a fee, but in Division III specifically, I hear more complaints about, hey, we're already paying for the cost of the private tuition, right? The school, and man, it'd be great if I didn't also have to pay to watch my child perform in the sport.
Yeah, I've obviously been a pretty vocal critic of the move to a paywall type system by many conferences and many schools. And let me just stress, the one thing I want to stress is I don't think FloSports is doing anything wrong. I think they've created a great product. They've identified something that they think people will buy, and people are buying it. And so I have no problem with what they're doing. The problem I have is with the decisions on the Division III school and conference side to do this. Okay. That's the issue I have is, are you sure that you want to go down the route of minimizing the number of people that get to watch your school and your programs play? Are you sure that's right for Division III? For the reasons I talked about earlier, wanting people to consume the product. It's like anything with marketing.
Yeah.
You need awareness. You need a brand. You need to build the brand. And my big point, Cory, in all this is not like I'm not mad at anyone at FloSports.
Yeah.
It's just, why would you choose to do something that drastically minimizes the number of people that get to watch these student athletes? I don't understand it at all.
And it does drastically reduce. You and I have received some information and some numbers. One SID told me their viewership fell over 90% in football from what they were at in the first game a year ago last week. That is just unsustainable.
Yeah, it is. Again, especially Division III, you want that organic thing that plays out. Like I focus a lot on basketball, obviously, and what I do. And Division III basketball on a Saturday afternoon is a great thing, or it has been a great thing, because you get this thing where there's people on X and we're sharing links. Hey, it's 32-30. Williams is leading Amherst with 3 minutes left in the first half. Here's the link. And then you start to get this snowballing thing of people watching games. Or on a Friday night, Whitworth and Whitman are playing each other in the Pac Northwest. And you want that organic thing where there's eyeballs on games. You also want high school coaches, you want AAU coaches being able to watch these games, because those are influential people in kids' decisions. So you put a paywall up and those people are kind of boxed out. And all these influencers, the people that are shaping college decisions, now they can't just click on the link and watch the game. And there's so many sides to this, and those are some of them.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. And, I understand. Look, the conferences are getting, I've heard anywhere 25, 30,000 per school, basically. Yeah. Is that a fair trade-off, especially considering that I don't see schools, and this, I'm not necessarily talking Division III here, but they're involved in this now. But Division II schools that have gone to Flow College in the last couple of years, and a lot of D2s have gone streaming. That's nothing new there. But it's the money they get is not being put back into improving the broadcast or improving the quality of life of the people that are working 19, 20 hours a day already as SIDs.
Right.
It just doesn't seem to me that it's a fair trade-off.
No, and look, we also have to acknowledge here that small colleges are going through a tough financial period of time, in terms of sustainability and in terms of the bottom line of small colleges. Many have closed in the last 5 years. There's more that will. So money is money. $30,000, that's typically the number I've heard with Flow. $30,000 is $30,000. That pays for some bills. But to me, it would have to be a much greater number for me to believe that having your viewership go down whatever crazy percent, and it is, it just is. We're seeing those numbers play out now by people that are sharing it. It can't be worth 30. And to me, if that's all you're getting, it would be better off to go and do an aggressive alumni fundraiser. Like the CCIW has chosen to keep things off the paywall. Illinois Wesleyan, my alma mater, has gone out and asked people for financial support to keep the broadcast free, whether that's advertising or underwriting or whatever you want to do. I just don't think that $30,000 to the school is worth what they're paying, and that's a really big price that they're paying.
It really is. And then you put in the production standard. It doesn't necessarily improve. And look, listen, there's a lot of D3 schools that put on much better broadcasts than the D2 schools that I've watched for years.
Yeah.
They have. But now some of the schools that put out quality stuff, they're struggling with some of the new equipment, whatever it is that's causing the problems. And I feel that that they need to have a minimum production standard if they're going to go behind a paywall.
It's a good point. I think people are a little bit confused on this as they're watching these early games with FloSports, and they're assuming that Flo is producing the content locally, and really they're not. Flo is just taking the school's production that's always been there for free, and they're taking that and they're putting it into their streaming platform. Now there may be some bells and whistles they're putting around it, but it's really the school producing it still.
Yes.
And you're right. I mean, I certainly don't have enough information to say that schools are or are not taking the 30,000 and using it to improve the broadcast. I'm sure some are, but also some are using the $30,000 for a lot of important things in the athletic department or the school. So we don't begrudge them for that. But yeah, I don't think anyone should be tuning into these FloSports games and expecting a better product. If the school has a crappy production value, that's what's going to be put right on Flo. It's not going to be any better.
No, it's not. And then some that aren't on Flo College, you know, when they weren't before and now they are, it's hard for them. And I heard from multiple SIDs last weekend how much of a struggle it was to get some of that. And some of that, honestly, Bob, it may just be the kind of initial first, you know, it was the first week of the season. You get some little bugs like that.
Right.
That's my hope, because it can't continue throughout the rest of the season.
What's interesting to me too is that the reason that we have so much of this data coming in around viewership drops is because it's coming from SIDs, and SIDs are the ones that are kind of caught in the middle here. These decisions to go Flo and take the money are being made at the administrative level.
Yes.
And the SIDs, you can tell by the notes that they send people like me and you, they're very disappointed. They don't want to see the viewership drops. You know, it goes against their entire job. Yes. And so they're looking at these numbers just kind of disgusted. And there's something about that really bugs me, right? Is there's no one that works harder on a college campus, I think, than the people in the sports information department.
I agree.
And they're out there working so hard, and the same broadcast that they were putting out there a year ago, there's just way less people tuning into it now. And I think that kind of stinks on behalf of the SIDs.
Well, and the other problem, and one of the things I'm going to touch on as we get probably off season, is that we have a big problem with SIDs and how we treat them.
Sure.
In college, especially in non-FBS, they are not treated well. And so when you talk about budget cuts, like you mentioned earlier, a lot of schools are cutting budgets. And so one of the first places they look is right there in the communications budget.
Right.
And it takes people. You got to have someone man the camera. You've got to have someone on the computer making sure the stream is stable. You got to have somebody doing the broadcast.
Right.
You got to have somebody inputting stats. And then a lot of these SIDs are responsible for finding, for basketball, all the people on the table.
Right.
Like,
right.
It's crazy how much is put onto them. And the school, the athletic department's getting some money for that, but it's not helping. It's making it more stressful on the people who need the help the most. And to be honest with you, Bob, a lot of them are getting out.
Yeah, the sports information role, the communications departments in college athletic areas, they really do have like tougher jobs than anyone realizes until you start getting close. I'm close to my alma mater in general, and I just watch that athletic department operation and how many people it takes to make it run. And you're like this time of year watching like media days play out, watching like the volleyball team come in for a whole day and shoot all their pictures for the year and videos and things they're going to use on a video board, and all the sports that happen all at once that you have to try to cover. And so, yeah, shout out to the sports information departments at these small colleges in particular that are understaffed and working their tails off. And that's why I say, like, you hate to see this platform where less people can consume that because they're working so hard to put it out there.
Yeah, and it's not about you and me, right? Like I have media access. I'm not as worried about if I don't get it. Hey, look, I'm not paying for it, right? But there are people that are paying for it, and some of these are the parents, and we talked earlier. They've said, hey, we pay $30,000 to $60,000 in tuition. Is it something that maybe Flo College only for Division III? I wouldn't do this for any other level, but in Division III, allow the athlete to have 2 free passes via a link or something that they could hand out to parents or people who are supporting them. Would that be something that might help some of this?
Well, I would hope so. And maybe that's part of, I don't know that it's not part of it today, but I would hope so. Just some of these Division III schools, the price tag, the room and board is, $70,000, $80,000, $100,000. And imagine having your kid paying that, and then you're paying whatever a month to watch his football game. So I hope that there is some kind of free pass, but I haven't actually heard anyone say that, unfortunately, but I sure hope so.
Yeah, no, I asked an SID, Division III SID, when we were talking, and I asked him, I said, did you get any free passes? And they said they got 12.
Okay.
But those 12 went to, you start at the administration and you work yourself down through the athletics level, and there's nothing left there. And 12 is just not enough, right? Like, right. I mean, I get that if that's the way, that's the common thing Flo College gives across to schools, that's fine. I just feel that this little extra kind of, hey, we understand your situation at D3 would go to a long ways to help things.
I think so. I do. It still wouldn't solve the fact that it's more just the casual fan that's kind of still going to be boxed out. You're not going to have enough free passes to get everyone into the game virtually that you want to. And so it still comes back to that same conversation, which is, are you sure that $30,000 is enough to limit the amount of people that are watching? Because you and I know, Cory, the casual fan that will click on a free link and watch a whole game, they're not going to pay to watch that same game. I will subscribe soon to FloSports so I can see all the basketball leagues that went to Flo. I will. No problem. That's fine. But the casual fan won't do that.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, there are, with the different levels I cover, I don't get media access to all the different conferences. I will pay for them as well. So I do understand that, it's troubling with that. Bob, man, I really appreciate you coming on. Tell us how people can find your work and where they can find you at.
Yeah, so I host a podcast that's on YouTube called the QCast. It's real easy to find on YouTube. And over on X, I have a variety of, I don't know if they're hot takes at all, Cory. They're usually not that hot takes. At B Quillman QCast is the handle on X. And on Instagram, I think it's just at Bob Quillman. And I just like to have fun with it, and like to have a lot of coaches and players and other people around Division III on the QCast. And so we just have fun with it. And I like to do things like this, like you're showing. I appreciate what you do.
Well, thank you so much. And it is outstanding work. I cannot recommend following Bob and watching the QCast enough. He really, really, Bob, you're doing the Lord's work out there, man. It's
the first time anyone's told me that in my whole life. So that's great.
I understand, as someone who's, and you're national as far as that goes. I can't even imagine what it's like for you. But again, thanks so much for coming on, and really appreciate it.
Thanks, Cory. Appreciate it.
Stay connected with me on Twitter, X, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and more. Just search at Cory Hogue Sports. Remember, it's all one word, CoryHogue Sports. You can reach me directly by email at CoryHogueSports@gmail.com. Well, it's time to head out to our mission brief. It's the weekend warm-up, your guide to the games that I'm watching, making sure you don't miss the best action in non-FBS football across Texas and beyond. Boy, do we have a loaded slate this weekend, beginning 1100 hours, all games that we are going over here. All games this week, Saturday, September the 20th, 1100 hours, Wisconsin Whitewater at Mary Hardin Baylor. Another clash between these D3 powerhouses. UMHB is looking to prove it belongs back in the national championship conversation. And Whitewater is a measuring stick program out of the WIAC. This is as close to a playoff game as you're going to see in September. It's physical, disciplined football, huge postseason implications, and a couple of fun quarterbacks to watch. Also at 1100 hours, Wayland Baptist visits Howard Payne. It's the Sooner Athletic Conference versus the American Southwest. And Howard Payne has a chance to improve to 3-0 in head coach Kobe Gibson's first season against an NAIA program. It's still building consistency. New offensive coordinator, still trying to find their way this year. Wayland Baptist wants to show it can challenge established D3 opponents. And a win for the Yellow Jackets would be outstanding headed in to American Southwest Conference play. And then at 1300 hours, 1 o'clock on Boxcast, you've got McMurray at Huntingdon College. McMurray takes the long trip to Alabama. They're facing a USA South contender. The Warhawks have shown flashes but struggle with depth. And Huntingdon has been a pretty steady playoff caliber team, and they're at home. They're good at home. The biggest question mark for the Warhawks is at quarterback after Jess Hull departed their game against Hardin Simmons with an injury and did not return. Big measuring stick game, and one that Warhawks of McMurray desperately need. At 1300 hours on the Hardin Simmons All Access channel. And by the way, the first one, Mary Hardin Baylor, you can find that on the UMHB All Access. And the Howard Payne game on the Howard Payne All Access, all on their sports, on their athletics websites. They're not a part of FloSports yet in the ASC. As we've been talking about streaming today, might as well throw that in there. Back to this here, 1300 hours, Louisiana Christian at Hardin Simmons. Again, it's on the HSU All Access channel. This one has real intrigue. Louisiana Christian, former D3 program, and now they're rising in NAIA, and they've got scholarships. But Hardin Simmons isn't your typical D3 team. They're standard in the ASC and across the country. I think the Cowboys' depth and physicality is going to be tested by LCU, and they play with speed and energy. It's going to be a fun one to watch in Abilene. Then we head into the strictly afternoon and evening games here. 4 big ones on tap, starting with Trinity at Pacific Lutheran. This one is on FloSports. Trinity's headed west to face a strong Northwest Conference opponent. The Tigers are contenders in the SAA and playoff regulars, while the Lutes are trying to establish their tradition. A long road trip, but it's another chance for the Tigers to strengthen the national profile. And also at 1400, we have Cisco at Trinity Valley. This is a classic Southwest Junior College Football Conference showdown. Cisco is scrappy, and they usually play better than its roster depth suggests, and they have a fantastic coach there through the Wranglers. So does Trinity Valley, and they've also got some size and speed. This one's going to come down to who controls the line of scrimmage, and there's early playoff implications in that conference with this game here. At 1600 hours, 4 o'clock p.m., UIW travels to Northern Arizona, and this is a big test for UIW. Cardinals are trying to steady themselves after early inconsistency with the offense, and NAU offers a tough road environment from the Big Sky. The question is whether UIW redshirt freshman quarterback E.J. Colson, who's making his first start for the Cardinals, can keep pace with the offense, can get that offense going. If not, mistakes going to stack up against them, and that is a disciplined Lumberjacks team. And at 1700, we head back down to the JUCO ranks where Navarro is at Kilgore. It's another JUCO rivalry with a bite. The Bulldogs have been rebuilding. They've got talent, and they've got a quarterback back that is pretty solid, Ryan Shackelford. Kilgore's been a steady power in the Southwest Junior College Football Conference. These teams know each other well. The Bulldogs are going to play clean football to hang around with Kilgore, and that's a Rangers squad that is sporting from a loss at New Mexico Military last week. Another loss this early in the conference season would really hurt the Rangers' chances of hosting once the playoffs begin. And then we go into our nighttime slate, and again, it is a loaded slate of games, 1900 hours, 7 p.m. for you regular folks. Austin P at Abilene Christian. ACU steps into another tough matchup, and this is a strong Austin P squad. The Wildcats can prove they're a top contender in the UAC race, while Tarleton looks to be the top of it. Abilene Christian may not be far behind. The Governors are a great test with an explosive offense that can put up points quickly. ACU has been solid at home under Keith Patterson. They're going to need the support of the home crowd on Saturday. Also 1900 hours, Cal Poly at Stephen F. Austin. The Lumberjacks are desperate for a win against an FCS program. And Cal Poly comes in off a confidence-building victory over D2 and LSC member Western Oregon. This is more than just a non-conference matchup for SFA. Feels like this one's a must-win if Colby Carthel's team wants to keep their postseason hopes alive. And a loss could send this season spiraling, something they can ill afford in Nacogdoches. At 1900 hours also, again, 7 p.m., New Mexico Military Institute, I bet they have military time. They're headed down to Brenham to play the Blinn Buccaneers, two proud JUCO programs, lots of tradition, as most of the SWJCFC teams have. Nimi has a disciplined attack. Blinn's got some athleticism and depth. Only 4 teams make the playoffs, which both teams expect to make. So this game's going to have a big say in who's for real in that SWJCFC race. And finally, 2000 hours, 8 o'clock p.m., West Texas A&M at Central Washington. That one is on FloSports. It's a Lone Star Conference battle. WT is trying to prove they can compete with the top of the LSC, and they've got a phenomenal quarterback, RJ Martinez, the Lone Star Conference Player of the Week. Central Washington remains a regional power and a contender for the LSC title, and they've got playoff experience. This is a big litmus test for WT's program under Josh Lynn, and a win would be a signature victory for him and one that he so desperately needs there in Canyon. That's going to do it for this episode, this episode. Call it what you wish. It's the Cut Block Podcast. Going to come back next week or soon. We think next week. Hopefully. Bringing you more unfiltered truth, more fearless football talk. Until then, stay safe. And remember, just because it's legal doesn't make it right. Kind of like my takes.
Thank you for listening to the Cut Block Podcast with Cory Hogue. Remember, the cut block might be legal, but that doesn't make it right. Just like Cory Hogue's takes.